Welcome to this demo of AudLit, the audiobook production app that lets you read until it's right. After creating an account and signing in, click here to start a new book. Let's give this a title. Details. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and skip that description. Okay, literary fiction, whatever genres you think is appropriate. Here's where you would enter a link to the ACX project. This is just an optional thing. And this is really important. You need to select the audio folder. All of the recordings you make in AudLit are saved locally. So even if you don't use AudLit, you can always access your own files and move them into other apps. Okay, so let's go ahead and select a folder for this project. I'm going to create this in my Documents section. One good idea would be to save this in someplace where you can have it automatically backed up, like a Dropbox folder. Anyway, I've got that set up there. Okay, here are some more details. The output specifications. It defaults to ACX Audiobook. You can see it's 44.1 kilohertz, 16-bit. If you need to change this to a different format, click down here. You can choose different resolutions, like 48 kilohertz, 24-bit. Okay, we'll just leave it for audiobook right now. We'll get into character voices in a future tutorial, but right now we're going to keep it a single narrator, so you can choose between those two. Fill in these as you need. Okay, mono channels. Let's go ahead and create this project. This is giving us an overview. Okay, you'll start to see statistics of your project as you record. So we don't have anything yet. We need to import a manuscript. So let's go ahead and click over here. Let's go ahead and you can either paste text if it's all in a text file, or what I'm going to do here is I'm going to upload a file. Now, the best types of files are going to be docx or EPUBs. You can see these other file formats as well. You can also do PDFs, but PDFs can be a little problematic because sometimes what happens is that there are different types of fonts that are embedded that don't necessarily translate into actual text. And we need to have the actual text in order for the app to recognize correctly so it can perform the cuts. And we're going to get into that in just a bit. So let's go ahead and find our EPUB file, which I downloaded from Gutenberg. Okay. And so it automatically detects the book and does its best to create the chapters from that. You'll notice in this section we've got these short paragraph runs. As you can see, merging these will improve the text recognition in the app. So I'm going to go ahead and merge all of these at once. You can do them all at once or just a section at a time. You can see which chapter they're in. Let's go ahead and merge them just to do that. And you can open each of these carets over here just to see the full text like this. Okay? And this gives you an idea just to review everything. Okay? So we're going to read through this chapter and give this read a try. And by the way, each of these sections, you can, if you need to do edits, you can edit in here. There are different parameters and different tools that you can do to either move things around, create new chapters, anything you like, or you can even delete a paragraph if you want. But that's all. These are some advanced editing tools that I'll probably get into in a future tutorial. But for right now, everything looks pretty good. I'm just quickly scanning it, making sure that I'm not seeing some weird characters imported in here. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this structure by clicking over here. Okay, all saved. Let's go ahead and let's start recording. I'll go up to the top here and let's start recording. Now, you're going to see this audio setup and calibration. This gives you an opportunity to select your input microphone, okay, which I have over here. The output, this is going through my digital audio interface. Now, what we want to do is record the calibration. What this is going to do, it's going to open up with 5 seconds. It'll ask you to be quiet so that before you record this little sample text, 5 seconds of silence will let the app capture the room tone. So you want to be in a space that is as quiet as possible, okay? And then it'll use portions of that silence to insert into the sentence and paragraph gaps to make it sound as seamless as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and record this calibration. Peter carefully brushed the cobwebs aside, then whispered softly, "She sells such treasures." But stop! The brass clock boomed through the chamber, shaking the glass shelves above. So my room's a little bit noisy, as it kind of warned over here, but don't worry about that. You can easily master that. And when it'll be able to adjust up to a point, it'll be able to adjust and master the final audio by adjusting the silence as needed. But let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like. Peter carefully brushed the cobwebs aside, then whispered softly, "She sells such treasures." But stop! The brass clock boomed through the chamber, shaking the glass shelves above. That sounds pretty good to me. Now, if you want, you can actually go ahead and adjust this. If there are some issues, you can go ahead and click these different options. This sounds okay to me. Sounds natural. It's pretty well balanced. But you can see there's different options you can do to kind of customize how this sounds. Okay, clear and natural. Sounds good. Now we're going to talk a little bit also, if you prefer to export this to a different app, you can certainly do that with AudLit. But these are just options if you choose to master everything within AudLit itself. Okay, let's go ahead and save and continue. So right now it opens up at the beginning, at the very front matter. Okay, you can see down, if I'm scrolling down, you can see this is just the very beginning here. Okay, but we're going to skip. I'm going to actually try to read through. Let's see what the introductions looks like. Okay. I think I'm going to read the introduction because the chapter might be a little long. Oh, you probably saw all those words up there. Those are just optional things. If you're finding that the cleanup is not being accurate or leaving things out, you can try to record some of those custom words and just follow the prompts there. But for now, I'm just going to jump into reading this introduction. Now, AudLit has what's called a voice-driven auto-follow teleprompter. You simply read, and it'll follow along and scroll the teleprompter page automatically, so you don't have to touch your computer. On the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see this guide box that can simply walk you through all the steps for creating your audiobook chapter. First step is obviously going to be recording. Now, as you record, what you want to do is read, and if you mess up, there are actually two options. The first one is if you mess up, you can just stop, wait, and just pause. And when it detects silence, it'll start a 5-second countdown. And then it'll highlight the sentence that you messed up on. And then you can just keep reading again. The other option is if you mess up and you don't want to wait 5 seconds, you can press the Enter key. This is just by default. If you want to choose a different key to press, you can do so in settings. I'm going to use a combination of reading, pausing, waiting for the timer to tell me when it's ready for the retake, or I'm going to also demonstrate reading and pressing the Enter key to manually flag the sections that I need to retake. Now, every once in a while, you might see that the wrong sentence is being selected. Maybe I get to the end of a sentence, but I want to read it again, and it'll jump to the next sentence. You can use the arrow keys, the left and right arrow keys, to navigate between sentences within a paragraph, or you can use the up and down arrow keys to navigate between paragraphs. Okay, so I think we're ready to go, and let's see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and click on Record Your Chapter. Introduction. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood through the ages, for every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood through the ages, for every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and manifestly unreal. The winged fairies of Grimm and Andersen have brought more happiness to Now here, I just pressed the Enter key because I don't want to wait 5 seconds, and I'm just going to reread. I'm going to hit the key and then just start rereading again. It's a little faster way instead of waiting 5 seconds. So here we go. And hit the enter key to mark the next retake. The winged fairies of Grimm and Anderson have brought more happiness to childish hearts than all other human creations. Yet the old-time fairy tale, having served for generations, may now be Yet the old-time fairy tale, having served for generations, may now be classed as historical in the children's library. For the time has come for a series of newer wonder tales in which the stereotyped genie, dwarf, and fairy are eliminated, together with all the horrible and blood-curdling incidents devised by their authors to point A. For the time has come for a series of newer wonder tales in which the stereotyped genie, dwarf, and fairy are eliminated, together with all the horrible and blood-curdling incidents devised by their authors to point a fearsome moral to each tale. Modern education includes morality. Therefore, the modern child seeks only entertainment Therefore, the modern child seeks only entertainment in its wonder tales and gladly dispenses with all disagreeable incident. Having this thought in mind, the story of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to please children of today. It aspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy It inspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy are retained and the heartaches and nightmares are left out. L. Frank Baum, Chicago, April 1900. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Okay, so I did a combination of retakes. Some of the retakes I would wait 5 seconds for the pause, and then you can see the retake timer up here on the top of the teleprompter there. Other times I didn't want to wait, I just hit the enter key, and that retake gets tagged in the recording, okay? And as you can see, I can scroll down this right column to start and stop the recording, okay? Now, with my current audio, the peak level is not quite right. You can see these X's here. The RMS level is not good. The noise floor is too high. Sample rate, bit depth. So there's issues with the audio as it is, okay? But let's not worry about that for right now. Now, what you're seeing here as we scroll down, these squiggly lines are actually the audio file. And you can see here, these little gaps here, those are the places where I waited, okay? Those are going to be places where the cleanup will recognize that there's a retake. And these green lines are where I push the key, the enter key, to tell it that I made a mistake, and it'll also recognize that it needs to clean up on those spots, okay? Anyway, before we do any cleanup, we need to do the second step. We need to analyze the take. Let's go ahead and click on this. Now this takes a few minutes. What's happening, it's compressing the audio, and then it's being run through an analysis to recognize the text that I read, compare that with the manuscript here, okay? And then it's going to map out all the words that belong and the words that don't, and the words that have been repeated, and come up with the best readings of each take, which is usually the very last reading. You keep reading until you have something good, and then you continue on. Okay, so we can see that this is all done, and it automatically moves us up to this next version, which is clean up this take. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this one, clean up the take. Now it jumps down further, and now, just like that, we have the cleaned take. Let's go ahead and listen to see if it cleaned up all of the cuts that all the retakes and flubs that I had. Let's listen. Introduction. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood through the ages, for every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and manifestly unreal. The winged fairies of Grimm and Anderson have brought more happiness to childish hearts than all other human creations. Yet the old-time fairy tale, having served for generations, may now be classed as historical in the children's library. For the time has come for a series of newer wonder tales in which the stereotyped genie, dwarf, and fairy are eliminated, together with all the horrible and blood-curdling incidents devised by their authors to point a fearsome moral to each tale. Modern education includes morality. Therefore, the modern child seeks only entertainment in its wonder tales and gladly dispenses with all disagreeable incident. Having this thought in mind, the story of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to please children of today. It inspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy are retained and the heartaches and nightmares are left out. L. Frank Baum, Chicago, April 1900. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. There you go. Automatically cleaned up. I didn't have to go and hunt for all of the places where I messed up. It automatically assembled all of the clean takes, just like that in one click. Now, the next step that I recommend is to click on Save Cleaned, okay? And what this will do is this will save this as a WAV file, all right? Now, let's say if I want to work with this, I can simply go to that folder that I saved that saved WAV file in, and then I could bring that into another program, say Audacity or Reaper or Adobe Audition. And then I could apply, if I have different mastering tools that I've learned to use or that have been set up for me, or different plugins for cleaning up and bringing the audio to specs, I can use those tools in other DAWs or digital audio workstations, okay? You can be simply done here. We've saved the file, and you can see over here that this chapter is indicated that it's cleaned over to here. So we could be finished right here, but if you want to take it to the next step, we can go ahead and have the mastering done within AudLit itself. And to do that, you simply go up into the next step, click on Master this chapter. Now here, it's going to jump you down to this section. Here, you get to choose the different EQ presets. Okay, these are just some of the default ones. I personally like the warm and clear, but if you prefer, you want to experiment around and see which one you like better, you can certainly experiment with them. I like warm and clear. It can detect the voice type automatically, or I can just say, I'll just set it to male, okay? And then click on Master. And there you go. Take a look at this. Now this is actually fully ACX compliant. I can upload this and it should be accepted in any ACX book project, okay? You see the peaks have been corrected, the RMS is corrected, noise floor is now corrected as well, okay? And if you want, you can just listen to this. Introduction. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood through the ages, for every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and manifestly unreal. Okay, so that is the mastered version, and for ACX, you want to save this as an MP3 file. You also optionally have an option to save it as a WAV file, really up to you. But for ACX, that's going to be the standard. And once you do that, and specifically for the MP3 version, you'll start to see over here, now we can see that the introduction has been mastered, okay? Now, you have the option, if you're happy with this, you can click on Approve this chapter. There's also an interesting option if you want to invite somebody to be a reviewer, you can invite a collaborator. You simply enter in their email address, click on Invite, and what they will be able to do is they'll be able to hear your audio files and be able to annotate. But we'll get into the reviewer's point of view in a separate tutorial. But if you want to give them the option to approve the chapter, you can do so as well, okay? So here, this top bar over here is our navigation. You can do it in one of two ways. You can click down and jump to a chapter over here, or you can use these arrows to go front, forward, and backwards this way as well. And you can see in the introduction, I skipped over this, but if you wanted to, if you were seeing that maybe you were having some problems with getting the text to be recognized, maybe some words are being cut out, you can record each of these vocabulary words, okay, just to help the recognition. It's optional, you don't have to do that, but it can be helpful in certain circumstances, okay? So anyway, that's a quick look. And again, if I want to manually approve this chapter, I can do that by just clicking over here. And what that will do is that will ask you to confirm. Once you approve it, then all editing is going to be locked, okay? You can, of course, change that back if you want to re-edit something. But here you go. Just before I approve the chapter, I want to show you this right column, We started with audio settings, selecting our input and output. This is the sound. This is the audio kind of audio meter. This is the record button. You can see start and play. Okay, and it kind of walks you down this right column. At the very bottom, you'll see all of our existing takes. You can see how long they are. This is 3 minutes 4 seconds. Our final version, or clean version, is 1:25, and 1:28 for the master, because it's actually adding a little bit of silence at the end and beginning as needed for padding. Okay, so we can see the status of each of these takes over here, and they're automatically saved. You're going to find that in the folder, if you recall, I created it in my documents section. You'll find your takes within the chapter file. In fact, let me see if I can go ahead and jump down to show you where the files actually are. Okay, let's go ahead and jump over here. Let's go to my, there we go. So here's my documents. Okay, and you can see the Wizard of Oz. Under chapters, you can see the introductions in here, and there are my files right there. Remember when I asked you to save the cleaned WAV file? I can simply copy this over and insert this into Audacity or any other DAW program. And then if I want to master it myself in a separate format, you can do so. This is just the raw takes cleaned up in terms of the editing, and then you can do the mastering someplace else. And this was simply the mastered version that we did within AudLit. Okay, so it's really up to you how much work you want to put into post-production, but the raw reading and the raw assembly, it's just so much faster. You saw how I was able to do a combination of wait 5 seconds without touching my computer to automatically recognize the retake, or pressing the enter key to quickly move through and just re-record without having to do that 5-second wait. 2 different options for retakes. That's a quick look at the general workflow. Oh, by the way, when you're done the whole thing, then you would move to the submit page, and this would give you the option of submitting everything. Okay, you can see over here, and all of that can be submitted. We'll go through a more detailed tutorial a little bit later on, but you can have options for once every chapter is recorded, then you can export them all at once. You can generate a 5-minute preview. You can generate a 15-minute checkpoint where you can choose multiple chapters. You can see I only have one recorded so far, but you can assemble any combination of chapters to up to the 15-minute time limit for a 15-minute ACX checkpoint, which is usually a few days or a week or so after you accept the project, so actually a couple weeks later. So again, and then you can download that general checkpoint to upload into ACX. A lot of really great tools worth exploring here. Okay. And yeah, so we can go back to our overview, and we can see what we have. This is all the information of the book itself, how many total words. This is my speed that it measures, okay? And you can see right now, you can kind of look at our progress over here. Our introduction has been recorded, and the rest of this course needs some work over here. But you can see that's already ready to go and ready for approval. And you can watch your progress as you go along, and that's it. Okay, so that's a quick look of a quick deep dive of the AudLit app for creating audiobooks. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm available by email at hugh@audlit.com. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing all the wonderful audiobooks that you will be working on. And I'm here to help in any way I can. Take care, have fun recording, and I'll talk to you next time.